Before we get into anything that we'll be talking about, I'll just do an acknowledgement of country. So just recognising the land that we're all spread across today, across the East Coast, so Victoria and New South Wales is where everyone's calling from today. Recognising the traditional owners and their continuing connection to land, sea and community. And also acknowledging elders past and present and their connection to the land as well. Sovereignty was never ceded, always will be Aboriginal land. And the struggle for land rights and equality is ongoing for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. So with that said, I thought we could get started with some introductions. I don't think everyone knows each other here, so it'll be good just to go around really quickly. We do only have half an hour, so we'll keep it quite short if we can. I thought I'd start with the young leaders that we have in the room, and then I'll come back around to everyone else. So if I could just pick someone out, I might start with Rasa, if you don't mind, and then you can choose the next person from there. But if you can just, say your name, where you're calling in from with a traditional land, if you know it, and what your relation is to MYAN as well.
Yeah, sure. So hi everyone, I'm Rasa. I'm calling in from Melbourne, I am part of the youth reference group for the COVID vaccine rollout, especially for culturally and linguistically diverse communities. So really excited with that. I've worked previously with MYAN as well, especially with MYAN WA. I'll pass it on to Rana.
Thank you so much, Rasa. I'm Rana. Nice to meet you all. I'm the National Manager for Multicultural Youth Advocacy Network, and lovely to meet you all here.
I'll choose Domina.
Hi everyone. My name is Domina. I'm here in Western Sydney on Darug land. I'm part of MYAN New South Wales and I'm also a YAN member for New South Wales as well. Can I pass it to Varsha?
Hi, yeah, my name is Varsha. My pronouns are she, her. I'm also calling in from Darug as well, and I'm from the Youth Disability and CALD reference group as well, and I'll pass it to Markos.
Hello everyone, I'm Markos. My pronouns are he and him. I'm on Wurundjeri land, and like Varsha, I'm in the YCDC. It's great to be here. I'll pass it to Alex.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex Long. I'm calling in from Bidjigal land, which is in southern Sydney. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the CEO of the Multicultural Youth Affairs Network New South Wales. And I will pass to Min.
Hi everyone, my name is Min. I'm part of the Youth Reference Group for the COVID rollout, and it's really nice to meet you all. I'll pass it on to Carmel.
Hi there, thank you. Carmel Guerra, CEO of the Centre for Multicultural Youth, but also Chair of MYAN. And I'm on Wurundjeri land of the Kulin Nation in the northern suburbs of Melbourne by the beautiful banks of the Merri Creek, and I pay my respects. So on my Zoom, I can't see anybody else. I'm going to change from my iPad to my computer in a minute, so I'm not sure who to hand over. So can someone offer while I swap devices?
No worries. Thanks, Carmel. Jane.
Sure. Hi, my name's Jane. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm dialing in from Wurundjeri land, so in East Melbourne, and I'm Victoria's representative on MYAN YAN, and previously involved with CMI. And I think lucky last we have Kano.
Hi everyone, my name is Kano. I don't know if I'm going last because my name's long and everyone's scared to pronounce it, but my name is Krishnadevsi Champaksi Ravalji, otherwise known as Kano. I'm part of the youth reference group with Rasa and I think Min. And yeah, I've worked with CMY before a little bit on the volunteer, and yeah, first time getting in contact with MYAN. So, and I'm on Wadawurrung land in Melbourne, western side of Melbourne.
Thanks, Kano. And for anyone that doesn't know, I'm the Youth Leadership and Advocacy Officer at MYAN, recently taken from Swathi. So just been in the role for about a week. And I'm on Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung land as well in Naarm, Melbourne. So really great to see everyone here and how we're all connected to MYAN. It's really good. We don't usually get opportunities like this to all connect from the different programs that are involved, and especially with Carmel here and Alex and Rana. So it's really, really exciting. You would have seen in my email yesterday a little bit of background about what's happening within this half an hour. We really, with the recent lockdowns in New South Wales, we really want to show our solidarity, but now Victoria is also in day one of another lockdown 5.0, so pretty good timing considering everything. It is unfortunate, but it's really good, I think, to just show our solidarity with the wider community and everyone else that's experiencing the difficulties of lockdown. This is really just a conversation for us to have a chat amongst each other and talk about any common themes, what your own experience is. So don't worry too much about wording things a specific way. You know how to tell your story best and what you've experienced. So please just take the floor whenever you feel is necessary. And I'll really sort of direct and guide the questions towards the young leaders that are here. But Carmel, Alex and Rana, please comment at any time as well. All right. So I'm going to go straight into it and go for the first question, and please unmute yourself, or if you prefer to pop it in the chat box, that's okay too. So what has your overall experience been with lockdown, whether you've been through it a number of times or it's sort of very fresh for you? Can you just sort of describe what that experience has looked like for you? If you like, you can talk about the negative and positive aspects or any sort of coping mechanisms that you've sort of come across. Does anyone want to go first? I'll pick on someone if not.
I'm happy to go first.
Thanks, Domina.
Jump in. Lockdown's been quite lonely, I find, finding kind of new ways to connect with people, and how there's this like very real realization of how much kind of going out, seeing people in person, going to places together, you know, attending events, and how much that was like a part of my managing mental health and my well-being, and like what kind of coping mechanisms can I use now being in lockdown, and how can I still feel connected? So it's, yeah, really interesting. I've become a plant mum, like a lot of people have in lockdown, and learning how to cook. So there's new kind of interests that have come up being in lockdown. Yeah.
Thanks, Domina. Anyone else?
I don't mind to go next. I think there's been a very big difference between the first lockdown and the second lockdown. The first one last year for New South Wales was actually really great for me because I was in such a period of burnout just before it. And I think that break and that pause was really great for me, despite like how bad it was as like a whole picture. Personally, I think it slowed me down a lot, which was great. And I picked up a lot more skills. I got back into working out and spending time with my family. But I think once we came back out, we all got used to essentially normal life. The second lockdown has been so hard. I don't know, it's just been extremely hard. I think it's only been like 3 weeks now, but it feels way longer than last year. And I think it's because we were all getting used to getting back into our routines. So now trying to learn new skills and like find creative ways to cope has kind of been not a priority because we've gone through that. It's not fresh for us. It's kind of just like oh, here we go again. And I think because there's not such a big community feeling this time, it just kind of feels like we're paying for people's mistakes in a way, which is quite bad. I would say how I'm getting through it is just communication with friends is the most we can do, really. Love Island is my coping mechanism at the moment. But that's, yeah, it's not looking very fun. And I feel really bad for Melbourne as well, who are about to start the same thing, because, you know, you guys have been in it like 7 times or something ridiculous. So yeah, that's my feelings there.
Yeah, Carmel's got her hand up saying it's the 5th time. Yeah, not that we're counting, but anyways. Markos, did you want to go next?
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, it's been a mixed bag, obviously. I think we'd all agree on that. To me, the hardest one was the very, very first announcement of lockdowns and restrictions from the federal government. Do you remember that? Early 2020? That was hard because literally normal life just stopped out of nowhere and this whole new reality set in. So that was hard. But since then, you just have to find rewarding ways to spend your time. You read, go for walks. You can even volunteer and work on the internet and help others. That's a very great way to do it. As a depression sufferer, I've always had to look on the positives. Even before COVID, I'd have days where I couldn't feel like I couldn't handle it. I had nothing to look forward to. So you just have to find those things that you look forward to. And I've always been a homebody, to be honest. I've always been someone who stays indoors a lot. So that transition wasn't too hard. And I just worry, my biggest worry really is that even a decade from now, if there's no restrictions, but will life ever be the same level of carefree normal as it was before? Will this dark shadow hang over us forever? So that's quite dark, but yeah, so rambling thoughts from a rambling sort of person. But yeah, you just try and look at the positives and do what you can. And I look forward to hearing from everyone else.
Yeah, very well said, Markos, and I feel the same. That you sort of roll with the punches, I guess. That's my coping mechanism at the moment. Before I head to the next question, did anyone else? Jane, I can see you're unmuted actually. Did you want to go for it?
Yeah, well, I'm in Metro Melbourne, so I've done this quite a few times. And although I want to be clear that I think I've been shielded from the worst of lockdowns because I've had full-time work. I actually started full-time work shortly before lockdowns when I graduated. And so my entire first year of work, my working life has been from home. And that's been, there's a lot of positives to that flexible working, but it means that when people talk about a new normal, I don't really have a normal to talk about. Prior to the lockdowns, I was a student living with my parents, and now I'm working full-time and living in an apartment, and I don't know what it's like to work in an office. I'm really nervous about it as well. It's just a really strange environment to go through such a kind of dramatic life transition.
Yeah, absolutely. Similar to you, I started at CMY 2 weeks before the first lockdown. So I only got to experience the first little bit of that sort of organizational culture side of things before I was into my own little space in my 1-bedroom apartment. So it was very different for me too. I know a couple of people that have spoken so far, you've already touched on some common themes based on your own responses, but more broadly or within your own communities, do you think there are any sort of common themes that have come up over the past year and what people have sort of been facing?
Yeah, I guess I'll go for this one. Sorry for silence there. Yeah, so I live by myself, and I guess a lot of my other friends are also international students or students from other states. They also live by themselves as well. So there was that loneliness and just missing family, being homesick. That was really difficult. We all had low points in our mental health throughout the periods from Melbourne as well. So the repetitive lockdowns didn't really do any good for our mental health. I think one thing that I would also say on the positive side was we did find hobbies that somehow we kind of didn't revisit for a long time due to work or study, or we just discovered that, oh, wow, we're actually really good at this. We just never had time to sort of explore that side. So I think we all kind of came up with like one hobby that made us feel better about being in lockdown. But no, it was very common for us to feel low and sort of detached from society and family as well.
Yeah, that connection to family is really huge. Kana, I noticed you unmuted yourself. Would you like to go?
Yeah, I'll talk family in a bit. I think common theme was, I think this lockdown, I think for all the states, this new lockdown's been very tough. And even though in Victoria we've become sort of experts at lockdowns, I think now that we can almost see the finish line, we've tasted normality, and then it's like, whoop, back to lockdown again. I think it's hit harder for, I think personally for me, this one's that we're about to go in is hitting harder than the previous ones, just because, you know, everything was normal. We were living life like as we normally would, and then it's like, whoop, it's stripped all back again. It's bringing back memories from last year of being in, I think, lockdown for 111 days or whatever it was. So it's just, I think for Victorians, a little bit of that. And for young people, because you know, as a young person, you know, we're young, we want to go out, we want to explore, you know, go to parties, go do these adventures. Then it's like, well, we can't do that. We have to be at home and just do our thing. So I think that's a bit of a common theme, is like, oh, you know, I want to live my life, or, you know, do all these things that as I should in my young 20s or teens, but I can't do. So it's just that feeling of, I'm like grounded. Another common theme I found in my community is the Indian community, because we had a pretty bad COVID outbreak a few months back and still going, is that we've had, you know, I've had family members pass away because of COVID. And then it's like my family here feels quite hopeless. Like they can't really do anything other than donate money or like call them. So I think, and it's hard because in my community, I can't have that conversation with my parents. It's like, you know, we don't talk about our feelings, or, you know, we don't talk about things like that. So it's kind of hard of supporting, I guess, my parents and other Indian communities where that, you know, young people have to support their parents, but they can't really support them because we don't have that dialogue between the parentals and just young people. So that's another thing that I found in lockdown.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Min?
What I noticed was everybody was trying to find hobbies, and during their free time, everyone was, you know, like I really liked how everyone went to Zoom for like meetings and stuff. So like it was good that we could still meet up online and do things online, even though we weren't allowed to meet face to face. I thought that was really good. That was really helpful. And I also was, everybody was really focusing on exercising and getting fit and healthy, and also cooking as well. So I thought that was a really good way to cure the free time you had. Yeah.
I also want to add a positive theme. I think I've realized that a lot of young people or young adults that are just about to start work is that we've kind of realized that we don't need to just fall into the patterns that exist for work already. I think a lot of like near graduates right before COVID, it was kind of like, oh, like we've seen our parents work and how tough it is, and as soon as COVID came, it's like all companies required flexibility, and it's like, why was this not always a thing? And now that it's back, but when it left, the lockdown, a ton of the flexibility, the part-time work, the working from home, kind of, I guess the more empathy that we saw from corporate spaces became really comforting and stayed on. And now we've seen a lot more companies bring in like paternity leave, and a lot more companies bring in working from home. So I think that's been a good theme, that a lot of young people aren't going to go into workplaces with a mindset that we have to conform into like a cog-like existence. That's kind of something I've realized, is that we all have kind of more of an optimism for corporate life, which is nice.
Yeah, great point. Thanks for sharing, Varsha. I'm going to go to the next question, which I'd be really interested to hear your answers. Do you have any ideas that you think would help us get out of lockdown?
Vaccinations, I assume.
Yep. Carmel?
Hi there. Can I just say, hi everybody, lovely to chat to you. I would endorse that. I think that what we've found, those of us in Victoria, long term at lockdown number 5, that's why we know the number, is that young people and young adults play a really important role in encouraging their older brothers and sisters, their family, their grandparents to vaccinate, because there's so much misinformation. And I think probably some of you and I have chatted about this, or we've chatted about it at CMY. I don't know whether it's happened in New South Wales as well, Alex, but it's a big issue that young people have told us that they've had to explain it to their parents. So I think that is a way forward, with so many people in their 40s, 50s and 60s still needing to get vaccinated. So then we can get all your age group vaccinated. That's a really important role that I reckon the MYAN family of young people can play. I reckon that would go a really long way. So I'd love to know if others feel the same, really, Matika.
Yeah, we can definitely hear from everyone about that. Jane, I know you're on, you've unmuted.
I would totally agree with that. I think particularly as young people from migrant and refugee backgrounds, we play such an important role in helping our communities and our families understand the public health information that's out there and give them confidence. And then for young people ourselves, I've noticed that the impact of, poor communications from the government around vaccines has really affected us. A lot of people are really nervous about, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, all these issues, and the solution that's been put in place of going to talk to your GP. I think amongst a lot of my peers, we don't have like the one GP that we see on a regular basis that we feel like we trust. It's sort of just like whoever was the convenient doctor to go to when you needed a note from to excuse yourself from school. And so there's like a lot of kind of anxiety there about like, how do we get good health advice? And, with all these like different choices that we have to make and feeling like we don't have a lot of control over what's available to us, how do we support vaccinations?
Antigua, can I add something
Yes,
to
please.
that? I really agree with what Jane has said. And I think, the assumption that governments make that that everyone has a GP is, it's an enormous privilege to have a regular GP that you can confide in and talk to regularly, that you have access to. So I think it's, really important to not assume that everyone has equal access to a GP that they feel comfortable talking to and making a really big decision, because I think there is really conflicting advice about vaccines, and the advice has changed fairly regularly. So I absolutely understand young people's concern about, do I get the AstraZeneca vaccine? Do I wait for Pfizer? Also, what kind of advice do I give to my friends and family and parents? And I agree with Carmel that young people have had to play a huge role in translating. And I don't just mean, translating it into community languages, but also just sort of making sense of that information, that really constant changing health advice, translating and interpreting public health orders for family members and community. I think that's a really huge burden that, that young people, and they have really stepped up and done amazing work in the community, acting, in what many of us are paid to do, and young people, provide that service to their family and community for free. I just think that's, it's amazing what young people are doing.
Totally agree. Domina, Kano, anything else to add, or from anyone else as well?
Sorry. Oh no, sorry. Quickly add on. I think agreed. I think the vaccinations is huge, and I think especially with CALD families, there's a lot of misinformation, especially on things like WhatsApp. I know in the Bindi community that's huge. WeChat. There's all these things that are, you know, flown around, and because it's in their language, sometimes it's more, you believe it more than if you were just to see it in English. I think that's another factor. And I think because there isn't that many CALD resources out there, I think we've, as part of the YRG, we've looked at some, but I don't think there's enough, or they're not accessible as to the CALD communities. And I think the other factor is that it's too hard to get a vaccine. I feel like you have to call it, you have to phone, you know, have to call a line, make a booking. It should be just, you can do it online, or there should be an easy process, especially for CALD. I know that, for example, for my family, I have to fill out in the forms, do this, do that, and it puts a lot of pressure on the young person to make sure they're informed about everything that's happening, make sure they translate that information to their parents, make the booking, and sometimes even go with the parent to the appointment. And it's a lot of pressure on the young person to do everything, rather than having a simple process in place where they can make a booking online and just show up and get the vaccine. I think calling a phone number is very difficult, especially in CALD families, and you don't know, you know, if you're going to speak to someone, if you don't have the best English skills, it's a bit difficult.
Domina?
Yeah, I wanted to just add, just kind of reflecting on my experiences, because there's so much advice that keeps coming out and it's constantly changing. Like, once I hear new information, I'm like, I have to call my parents, I have to make sure that they know. And, you know, even just with kind of the recent lockdown for Sydney that happened, it went from like, here are some LGAs that are locked down, to we're now in lockdown, and my parents had no idea. And I was like, this is what's happening. And feeling that kind of, feeling like I have to be constantly on top of the information that's coming out, and constantly on top of vaccination information, and like talking to my family members and community and saying, look, we can't have people over, you've had these plans, how do you negotiate this? And like, I feel in the CALD community, especially in the Indian community, it's like, if you've made, like, how do you tell family not to come over? How is that something, you know, how do you have these kind of conversations? It's definitely something that I think I found my peers and other young people have really stepped up to be like, look, these are boundaries that we need to set when it's lockdown. This is how you can communicate, how, you know, there's constantly sources of misinformation. How do we like filter through that? It can add to that exhaustion and like anxiety and fatigue, I feel, in lockdown. So yeah, good on young people.
Yeah, so the two main things that are coming out of this is really vaccinations and not having access, or the accessibility to information as well, and us having to step up as young people. I'm mindful of time. We might go about 5 minutes over, but before I go to the last question, was there anything else from anyone?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add, because apart from information, I think the main way to help us get out of the lockdown is staying unified. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen a ton of the things that have come out of New South Wales in the past year. I mean, week, sorry. It's felt like a year. The past week, it's been really divisive language, really like straight up racist policing. Really, it's made the lockdown harder to see, because we know how unfair it is, and how the policing has really gone wrong, and how different LGAs are targeted. And I think if that continues, we're not going to come out of it for quite a long time. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that to light, because I'm not sure if that's a thing that's occurred in Victoria or not, but it's been pretty heavily blatant in the past couple weeks, really without hiding it behind an agenda. It's like purely just racist, which is very hard to see in the news, and hard to not take in that information and see it personally, and then trying to explain that to your parents, and then it all comes in a full circle. Why are we being targeted, etc., things like that.
Absolutely. And I think for Victorians, that's something that we would have seen as well. I think, I don't know how many lockdowns ago that was, but that was definitely a pattern here too. Markos, Rasa, MYAN, any words of wisdom or messages for everyone else experiencing lockdown? And then I'll wrap it up and round it back to maybe Carmel, Rana and Alex as well.
Oh, the others go first. I'll think of something good.
Yeah, no pressure if you don't have, if you don't want to.
I think everyone's kind of said it really nicely from all their experiences, both from the personal and community experiences as well. If you do choose to see the positive sides of like new hobbies, new communication platforms, etc., new productivity platforms even, great. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that we need to do better just to get back to that new normal. We are working towards that, but we need a lot more support and direction for that as well. So hoping that comes soon.
Definitely. Thank you, Rasa. MYAN?
I think it's best to use this time as an opportunity to reflect upon what would you like to do in the future. Like, I think it's best to look on the bright side, look on the positive that you have a lot of free time, and use that time to improve yourself or create new hobbies or make a new business or anything. Like, it's not good to just think of the negatives all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, Markos, so that was something you were saying earlier in terms of being positive with everything. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Even as someone with Asperger's, and when I walk past someone not knowing if I have to smile, am I smiling right or wrong? Having a mask just cancels that out, So there's little things you just need to look at. Yeah, I agree. As a white person, I can't understand how it would feel to be targeted racially, but I see the misinformation. I see how multiculturalism in China being blamed for so much of this is really terrible. And I hope one day that the problem of misinformation can just stop, because it really makes so many things worse. And it's I could name names, but I won't. Certain media figures make it worse. So, but the good people have to stay together and make sure that good prevails in the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Markos. I'll leave it there, but Alex, Rana or Carmel, did you have any final words before we wrap things up?
Yeah, okay, I'll start quickly. Only my final words is that we've been saying is we are in this together. That's what's kept us as an organisation, me as a family. I don't know the other Melburnians in this, but lockdown number 5, I'm really annoyed. I was really annoyed at Sydney for a little while, actually, a little bit. And then I realised we're in this together and we're going to make this work. So solidarity and strength to all of us. So thanks, everybody.
Alex or Rana?
Look, what to say? Yeah, look, we can blame Sydney for a little while. That's all right. We blamed Melbourne for a long time, I think. Look, lockdown is going to be is tough for everyone, and I think we have to sort of change our mindset to accept that we may be in this for a little while longer. So to have some realistic expectations, I think that was something that helped me through lockdown the first time, as I figured out early on that we would probably be in lockdown for quite some time, and that sort of just helped me adjust my expectations. But I think that the key thing is to keep checking in on people, people that who are struggling, who may have their own challenges with mental health, or whether they've got lots of responsibilities looking after family, or they're an essential worker and they're constantly having to leave their home and come back and have that worry about getting COVID or passing it on. So I think, just making sure we're checking in on people. And I think, there's lots of young people that at MYAN New South Wales that we're working with that, we're really worried about, because their access to digital technology is really limited. So, all of the ways that you've all talked about today about staying connected are really important. But also just to remember that there's lots of young people out there who don't have that kind of access. And so we have to find ways to reach out to them and get that technology into their hands, and to help them stay connected.
Thanks, Alex.
Should I say something?
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just wanted to echo what Carmel and Alex said and add to that, well, probably in Australia, Sydney and Victoria experience it the most, but somehow we should learn from COVID that doesn't see any difference, any diversity, any personality, good or bad. It just get to everywhere and everyone. So nobody is secure. And it's just a call out to other states and territories to keep it safe, keep distance, wash their hands, and keep the masks on as much as possible, because it can come from anywhere and it can go everywhere. So, as long as we are in this together, it means all Australia and all the world right now are in this together. And it will not stop until everyone feel responsible about that.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, everyone. And there was a lot more people here than I expected. So thank you for making yourselves available. I'm sorry for it being so abrupt and really pushing it along. But thank you for your flexibility, making yourselves available, and especially thank you for sharing your experiences. It's really important and really great to hear about. And I'm sure a lot of other people will appreciate that too. So we'll make the recording and we'll get that out eventually. And then, yeah, I'll be in contact and let's get through this.